Good morning, children. And today we're going to begin with the lesson. We are beginning with the lesson, children, that is nationalism in Europe. Sometimes it baffles me. We are giving so much of importance to other countries. We have a very small part of nationalism in India, which is so sad because many of us were totally unaware of India and how exactly we got our independence. I know you studied about nationalism in India in class 8, but how was your concepts at that particular time? How much did you know about India or its concepts at that particular time? You had no understanding of history at that moment. There was no understanding of history at that particular time. So, we're studying nationalism in Europe, and now, India, just from the non-cooperation movement to the civil disobedience movement, takes on. We should have started from 1857, right up to 1947, but that's not to be done. Now let's come to the chapter, nationalism in Europe. Now if you look at your textbooks, children, you will see that there is a picture given at the beginning of the lesson. And in that picture you will see there's the Statue of Liberty. And the Statue of Liberty is not a particular woman, or some film star, or some beauty queen, or some Miss Universe, an imaginary figure. A totally imaginary figure, and she represents, one hand, the torch of enlightenment. Remember, it's not the torch of knowledge, because a person with knowledge may lack common sense. A person with knowledge may not have an enlightened mind. To be enlightened is to be filled with glory and knowledge of a load of things, besides the subject that you are, a professional in. When you know about life, you know about the world, you know about the problems of the rich, the problems of the poor. When you know about all this, you're aware of your surroundings. That is enlightenment. And Statue of Liberty, she has torch of enlightenment in one hand and a declaration of the rights of man and citizen in the other. Now, if you look in front of the statue, there is a long train of people. And if you look very carefully, each group of people, they have a flag which identifies them. A flag which identifies them, that's a sign of identification. And they have a national costume. Sometimes I ask myself, what is the national costume of India? If you say sari, then I would ask you which sari? The Gujarati sari, the Bengali sari, the Marathi sari, which sari? If it is kurta pajama, is it sherwani, is it dhoti kurta? Which dress? And if it is the safa or the pagri, every region has a different, headgear. So what exactly is the national costume? So we don't really have an identification mark. Today you are wearing the costume of St. Paul, the uniform of St. Paul, and so you identify with St. Paul's. You identify with St. Paul's, and it gives you a sense of identity. My school won the match. My school got the topper's result. My school got the best MTSC result. My school, you identify with the school. So to identify with the country, we need a national flag, a national costume. Leading that line of people is America, followed by Switzerland, followed by France, followed by Germany, and followed by many other countries. Now, this painting is made by an artist called Frederick Serrao. Frederick Serrao, that is the artist, and he made this painting in 1858. Now, this painting Victor, actually he had prepared 4 paintings, and out of the 4 paintings, this is one of the paintings. And the 4 paintings, he called them Socialist and Democratic Republic. He called it, Democratic and Social Republic. I reversed it, Democratic and Social Republic. Now, what is important in this? 1848, the year Frederick Serrao made the paintings. Number 2, the artist, the French artist, Frederick Serrao is named. Number 3, the name of the paintings, that is Democratic and Social Republic. These 3 questions normally come in the 1-mark question. Now, children, what we saw is here, people are marching under a flag of the country. You know, in the 19th century till the 18th century, we were under the rule of a particular king. We were under the rule of a particular king. It was an aristocracy rule, or what we would say in colloquial terms, Raja ka Raj. Now people were fed up of this autocracy rule. One king with a few chamchas and ministers sitting by him, giving him the advice he wants to hear, so that they are not removed from their post. And they were fed up of all his, eccentricities. He would go to war, even if he didn't have anything to do with that war. And who suffered? The common man. So people were literally fed up of the rule of the king. And that is the reason why they wanted that we should just finish up, with aristocracy. So in the 20th century, certain changes came about in the people. The first change was that we should do away with aristocracy. And the second important decision that the people took, let us have one government, but that government has to rule within a specific territory. Now, why specific territory? Children, it was so frustrating. Today, I am the subject of this king, meaning this Raja and I am the Praja. But after a few days, a few months, when the king loses war, oh la la, I am the subject of another king, and then another king, another set of rules, and another set of rules. People said, enough is enough. No more. No more. Now let us have a centralized government, a government which will rule over a specific territory, and the people who rule will be elected by the common man. So this was the changes that took place during this particular time. Now, kindly write with me. Write what I am dictating to you. Write what I am dictating to you. Now, highlight the words that I asked you to highlight. In 1848, please highlight 1848. Frederick Serrao. I'm writing the spelling on the board. F-R-E-D R-I-C, Frederick Serrao, S-O-R-R-I-E-U. I'm writing the spelling on the board. I've written it. Kindly note down the spelling. Please highlight. Please highlight 1848 and please highlight Frederick Serrao. Made 4 paintings. Continue writing. Made 4 paintings which he called highlight Democratic and Social Republic. Democratic and Social Republic. It showed people marching. It showed people marching in front of the Statue of Liberty. Highlight Statue of Liberty. Now, put in bracket. Liberty is a female figure. Liberty is a female figure with the torch of enlightenment, with the torch of enlightenment in one hand, with the torch of enlightenment in one hand and declaration of rights of man and citizen, rights of man and citizen in the other, close the bracket, in the other, close the bracket. Leading the procession was the USA, followed by Switzerland, France, Germany, Austria, Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, Lombardy, Poland, England, Ireland, Hungary, and Russia. Each group had a flag each group had a flag and people wore their national costume. And people wore their national costume. Now, take down a question that I am dictating. The question is, what were the changes? What were the changes that took place? What were the changes that took place in the 20th century? In the 20th century, in the political world of Europe. In the political world of Europe. In the political world of Europe. Point number 1. People wanted to do away with. People wanted to do away with multinational dynastic empires. Multinational dynastic empires. Number 2, they wanted nation states. They wanted nation states ruled by people elected by the common man. People elected by the common man and which had control over a specific territory. Over a specific territory. Now children, in France, first they were under the Bourbon kings and under some other dynasties and all that. Now they wanted one country of France. How did they bring about the feeling of nationalism? First thing, they said, we will call France our fatherland, and every member of France will be addressed as citizen or citoyenne. No madame, mademoiselle and monsieur and all that. No, just madame, just citizen and citoyenne. Children, they didn't like in our country, sab and mem sab and bade sab and chote sab and jihu, nothing of that sort. Everyone was known as, citizen or citoyenne. Secondly, they said that there will be common rules and regulations for the whole country. Whole country will be governed by common rules. Another aspect which they said, no estates, no first estate, no second estate, no third estate, absolutely no estates. Now we are going to have one government, and that one government is going, they called it the National Assembly. Taxes, you remember class 9? Tithe, then taxes on tobacco, taxes on salt. Forget it. and only the second estate, the third estate people paid the taxes. First and second estate didn't pay taxes, but now common tax for everyone. No first estate, no second estate. You pay your taxes as a citizen of the country. And what I like the best about this was, you know, children, in different parts of France, they spoke different languages. Different parts of France, they spoke different types of French. Like we have so many khadi bolis of Hindi, different dialects of Hindi. They had that too. But what did they say? They said, no, our national language is going to be the French that is only spoken in Paris. You better learn it if you don't know it. So wonderful. So today they don't have a problem on language. And you and I, we have 22 national languages or officials, you know, scheduled languages. We have 22 languages, children. On the other hand, the best thing they also did was, what they said was, they said, yes, we are going to make a new flag. They tore the flag of the king, the royal standard, and they made only one flag. What did we do? We took Gandhi's flag, removed the charkha, put a chakra, that became a national flag. We didn't even make a new flag. Now, when they adopted these policies, they built the spirit of patriotism among the people. They built the spirit of patriotism. Now, I'm completing the year only. I do hope you've enjoyed it. You've understood it. Tomorrow when I come back, I will give you the notes on the features that help collective identity in France. Thank you.